All right, good morning. Paul Humphrey, Chief of Police. Starting a new series of press conferences. One of the things that I've talked about before with you all is a dedication to transparency. This is going to be another thing that we do to make sure that you, the public, you, the media, have opportunities to understand what's going on within LMPD, within the community, how we operate, and give an opportunity to ask questions and get some insights into how we're operating. The plan is for this to be on a bi-weekly schedule, so every other week. Looks like we're going to be first and third Wednesdays. And during those press conferences, you should expect me or a member of the executive staff, as well as other representatives from the department, who are probably going to be more subject matter experts in some of the specifics that we might talk about that particular week. Today, it's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to kind of explain to you what our goal is with all of this as we go through it, but I'm going to give it to you just the same. Again, I want to make sure that we have a regular, sustained opportunity for people to engage, understand, and get acclimated to what we're doing internally. What we'll begin with is a crime overview. So we will give you both some of the significant numbers from the year to date, as well as crime trends. During this time period, we might talk about some specific cases that we have information about that we can update you on, or we might ask you for help in identifying suspects or locating suspects, or provide updates as to the strategies that we're using to combat crime. Part of what we are working on right now is a real community safety focused crime strategy, an all-purpose strategy. In that, we are also partnering with the mayor's office, who is creating another part of that crime strategy. And so you'll see those coming out shortly. I am a firm believer that you have to have a plan for everything. We often deviate from plans, but that's where you start. And so we want a crime strategy so that every officer on the department understands what their role is in combating crime. You can see our homicide, non-fatal, and robbery numbers year to date. And you can see our homicide numbers are up about 8%, while our shootings are down about 7%. Usually those numbers will correlate a little bit more closely. So it's a little odd this year that we've had a drop in overall shootings. So that's a very, very good sign. However, an increase in the lethality of those shootings. So that's something that we need to look into and understand a little bit better. One of the things very proud about is our reduction in robberies. Obviously, that's a very violent crime that victimizes people, but we've had a 33% drop in business robberies over the past year to date. One of the things that was changes that was made a few years ago is that carjackings, when we saw the spike in carjackings, those got moved over from being investigated by each individual division detective's office to being centrally investigated by the robbery unit. That has helped us greatly in identifying and prosecuting carjackers. And so that has been a great move that we've had in the past couple of years. So you'll see that we have made an arrest in 34 of our homicides this year. Also understand that homicide cases don't just always lead to an arrest like that. They are constantly worked, so it is not uncommon for us to make arrests weeks, months, or even sometimes years after the actual homicide case. So when you look at the homicide arrests and the clearance numbers, they are often far delayed compared to the time of the crime. We always want to see an arrest as quick as possible. We had a homicide the other night on Logan Street, and we were able to make that arrest within 5 or 6 hours due to really, really good community cooperation, good cameras that were on some of the businesses in the area, and good, solid police work that had police officers in the area very quickly and had that scene locked down. Homicide detectives were able to call out the SWAT team, and they were able to take that suspect into custody without any incident. So sometimes you'll see those quick arrests, and that's great to get that person off the street. But just because we don't have an arrest that quickly, don't think that doesn't mean that those homicide detectives are not working that case diligently. They are putting in work every day, and many times we're going out after the fact with our fugitive unit, our violent crime squads from CID, or average police officers are helping homicide locate and get information about these suspects. The non-fatal shooting squad. So You all know a few years ago that a change was made as well to transition. We've gone back and forth over the years. So in the course of my career, non-fatal shootings have been investigated either by division detectives. They were also centrally located in the homicide unit. And then they're now being investigated by a squad that is dedicated just to non-fatal shootings. That gives us the opportunity to dedicate specific resources to each one of those shootings and work them with the diligence and the care that they deserve. Understand that a non-fatal shooting is, it may be just mere inches from being a homicide. We also know that there's an increased likelihood that those victims or the participants in those non-fatal shootings are your later victims or suspects of homicide. So we want to make sure that we get to those people and we address those issues with just as much vigor as we do with homicides. One of the other things we're pretty proud of is our increase in federal indictments. These are federal indictments that are just coming out of our criminal interdiction division. That means that we are partnering with our federal partners, FBI, ATF, DEA, U.S. Marshals, to find the worst of the worst, the habitual repeat offenders who are plaguing our community. If you don't know how the federal system works compared to the state system, the federal system, they will not pick up a case. The feds are not going to pick up a case unless they almost 100% feel comfortable that they're going to get a conviction one way or the other. And with that conviction comes an 85% service mandate that they are going to serve that time. That is very important because what that is showing is it's showing the confidence that the feds have in our investigators and the work that they're doing, but it also shows that people are being held accountable at the highest level for those crimes. And these are often the things that you don't see, those partnerships behind the scenes and the good work that's going on that isn't always as visible as some of that frontline police work. But these are usually very, very dangerous people that we've been able to take off the street and get out of our community. So, one of the things that has gotten a lot of attention in the past week is street racing. We've spoken to you about it before. This is a problem that popped up several years ago. It's a problem that is plaguing many, many major cities around the country. And frankly, with the cooperation of the Metro Council and the expansion of the drag racing ordinance to allow us to seize cars and take enforcement action, not just on the active participants, but anyone who blocks a road, participates passively. It has allowed us to take much greater, much more effective action. The other aspect of that is that we're able to seize people's vehicles. If you have a car that you've put $120,000, $150,000 into, a reckless driving ticket is like water off a duck's back to you. You really don't care about that, and that's what we found. But what you do care about is that your car that you care about so much is going to go sit on the impound lot for the next 6 months, and there's nothing you can do about it. And we've seized now, I think, 65 cars in the past couple of years on that ordinance. The 2 cars that you see in that picture are 2 cars that were seized by our detail on Sunday night. The detail was very coordinated, and the reason why you did not hear about what you heard about on Saturday, you didn't hear that on Sunday, is because as soon as we start doing this and we start picking people's cars off, they quit. The message goes out very, very quickly that this isn't the place to play. You had seen that previously where we had this high frequency of street racers, and that went away for a while, or the frequency went down drastically. And that was because of the high level of enforcement and focus that we put on it. And trust me, we're going to continue to do that. So I am very proud of those officers on Saturday night. They were placed in an unreasonably dangerous situation. The community was placed in an unreasonably dangerous situation, but fortunately those officers exerted patience and no one got hurt. There was a high potential on Saturday night for someone to be seriously injured, and fortunately that's not what happened. We are not going to tolerate that type of behavior. You are not going to put officers from LMPD in danger. You're not going to put the public in danger, plain and simple. The picture on the right is a suspect from Saturday night at 26th and Market that we need help from the community in identifying. We had several people that jumped on one of our LMPD police cars doing thousands of dollars worth of damage, taxpayer money is going to take care of that, to fix that damage that was caused by this individual as well as others who need to be held accountable for their actions. So if you or anyone that you know has information on who this subject is, the 1st Division Detective's Office is working that, and you can call 574 LMPD to give us information on who that subject or any of the other subjects who were participating in these car racing events might have been. So one of the other things that we want to highlight is we talk about community engagement, and we talk about our ability to get out and meet with the community. We want to be able to highlight every other week some of the events that we have coming up, whether those events sponsored by LMPD or those are events that are going on in the community so the community knows. We have a program right now called Meet Your Beat Officer. This is a chance for the community in each of these divisions to come out and meet with the individual officers and detectives who are assigned to their actual beat. So as you know, our divisions, 1st through 8th, are broken up into smaller areas of operation for officers called beats. And officers are assigned to those individual beats in those individual neighborhoods. And so this is an opportunity in the 4th Division on September 10th from 6 to 8 at Sojourn Church down on Taylor Boulevard right there at Carlisle, and then out at the Paddock Shops on the 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. Summit Plaza Drive, an opportunity for the community in those divisions to come out, meet with the command staff of that division, meet with the officers that ride their particular beats, and start to build those relationships that are so crucial to community safety. Our LMPD Community Engagement Unit is extremely active. So they've already hosted about 90 events this year between Meet Your Beat Officer events, Stop the Violence events, and others that they do. One of the things that they do that I think is really special and very effective, and I think the community appreciates, but it's not widely known, is that after we have significant events like homicides, hostage situations, those things that shake up a neighborhood that would normally cause some disruption, they go back and they go door to door in those neighborhoods and they engage those people that were victimized, because the people who are victimized are not just the ones that were injured, but it's the entire community surrounding that event. And so they go door to door and make contact with people in those areas where violence happens to make sure that they can help get resources, get information, and take care of the people who are the ones that we really should focus our attention to. And those are the good citizens who are just trying to live their life. One of the other programs that we have, gang violence has come up as a topic several times. The GREAT program. The GREAT program is the gang resistance training that is done through JCPS with collaboration with LMPD officers to help train and teach young kids in JCPS how to resist that type of behavior and how to express positive behaviors and be a good part of the community. And so that's a program that's been going on and has been very successful, and will continue obviously with the new school year starting this year. So that's something we are very proud of. One of the things that we also want to do is feature an individual, a unit, so that you can understand some of the things that are being done on the department. The other thing is we want to take opportunities to educate you, the public, on how we operate so that you better understand the system. So in different weeks, we might walk you through how a pattern of a homicide investigation goes. What does the complaint process look like on an officer? What happens after a person is arrested? So all of those things that we want you to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. And one of the first ones that I want to feature is our victim services unit, an absolutely amazing victim services unit, nationally recognized victim services unit. And what they are is they're that hidden part of taking care of the community. You see us making arrests, you hear about the victims and survivors, but this is the unit that takes care of those victims and survivors. They go back after the fact. They're there on scene oftentimes, and they are dealing with the victims, survivors, and witnesses of violent crime to help walk them through the criminal justice process. This is helping them become whole again. We can never bring back their loved one. We can never undo their victimization, but this is that level of comfort and that level of compassion that we show to make sure that victims are taken care of. And with me today, I have Megan Ware, who is one of the supervisors within our victim services unit, and she has one of the other members of the victim services unit with her. His name is Leo.
Aloha, good morning. My name is Megan Ware. I'm one of the supervisors with the Victim Services Unit at LMPD. The LMPD Victim Services Unit was created in 2016 to ensure the fair, compassionate, and sensitive response to victims and witnesses of crime. Our mission is to provide support and advocacy services to victims by meeting their emotional, physical, mental health, and financial needs of both the victim and the family after an incident occurs. Since 2016, our unit has grown to 19 positions, including our hardest working employee, Leo, our therapy dog. The VSU receives cases from all major crimes investigative units, which includes homicide, robbery, and the special victims unit. We also work with the nonfatal shooting unit, the traffic unit, and division detectives as they investigate violent crime throughout LMPD's entire jurisdiction. We operate as a 24/7 crisis response unit, which enables officers and detectives to call on VSU to engage in crisis intervention and to try to meet the needs immediately after an incident occurs of both the victim and their family and the community at large. It is important to acknowledge that every case is unique because every person is different and may require different support services through that time. In 2023, the VSU served nearly 6,500 clients, totaling almost 35,000 services rendered. Those services include close to 100 call-outs, 100 client transports, and attending court with victims and their families almost 300 times. Other services rendered include safety planning, assisting with protective order filing, providing emergency shelter and relocation, and walking alongside victims and families through the entire investigative process. The VSU is fortunate to have internal resources through which we can support clients, but we also know that this job can't be done by LMPD alone. Our unit works diligently to build and maintain community relationships so that we can provide resources and resource referrals to community agencies who are doing incredibly hard work to meet the needs of the most vulnerable in our city. We know that it is almost always under incredibly traumatic and tragic circumstances in which our unit encounters citizens of Louisville, but it is the Victim Services Unit's honor and privilege to serve this community towards hope and healing. If you feel like you need to get in touch with the Victim Services Unit, you can call our office at 502-574-8788. Thank you for having me, and I'd like to turn it back over to Chief at this time.
Thank you, Megan. So that's a very, very important part that I think people miss out on. We talk a lot about officer and member wellness, but this is about community wellness. This is that missing piece. It's not just a technical piece. It is about making citizens whole again as closely as we can get them. So I appreciate the work that they do. It's absolutely amazing. They have been nationally recognized several times, and we're very proud of the work that they do. One of the things I want to also touch on really quickly is that we don't have a date set yet, but we will be having the release of the officer-involved shooting video sometime next week. We're still in the process of making sure that all of the critical interviews are conducted before that release goes out. So that you understand a little bit better, officers generally do not watch their videos prior to. They watch them afterwards. So we want to make sure that those videos are not posted publicly before we get statements from critical witnesses so that we can get the best account as we can. So that's part of the reason why there is a delay and we don't release these right away. We also want to be able to give you as much context as possible. So that gives us an opportunity to make sure that we get information gathered that is subject to public release. And then lastly, recruiting. Our recruiting, you saw that we had a recent class, and David, you asked me about this the other day. We had a recent class graduate of 9 recruits. Very proud of those recruits and excited to get them out on the street. 9 is not enough. We have seen an increase in our applicants, but what that says is also we are not lowering our standards. So just because we've received an increase in applicants doesn't mean we're going to take people who aren't qualified to do this job. And so I would rather have 9 outstanding recruits hitting the street than double or triple that if they're questionable character. So we are very proud of them. We're always hiring, so you can go to lmpdjobs.com and see the information. There's not too many places where you can have a high school education and walk through the door making almost $70,000 a year and serve your community at the same time. Thank you.